I think that there's a certain delusional quality that all successful people have to have. You have to believe that something different than what has happened for the last 50 million years of history. You have to believe that something different can happen.
Being realistic is the most commonly traveled road to mediocrity. Why would you be realistic? What's the point of being realistic?
Just put up a barrier.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's done. It's already done. The second I decide it's done, it's already done. So now we just got to wait for y'all to see.
Hello everybody, you're tuned in to the 216 Wealth Study with Vic the Scientist for my 4th episode entitled Thought. The last episode we discussed that a man gets rich by doing things in a certain way. In order to do so, man must become able to think in a certain way. A man's way of doing things is the direct result of the way he thinks about things. In order to do things the way you want to do them, man must acquire the ability to think the way he wants to think. This is the first step in becoming rich.
Obviously, it's not enough to just sit in a room, lock yourself up and think, and then magically you become rich. But the better way to think about it, how I think about it, is simple. A seed, an acorn, which turns into a tree. What's more important? It's like the chicken and the egg. Well, first you got to have the acorn, and then the other elements kick in, like sunlight, water, and time, and grow that acorn into a huge tree. But a lot of people are trying to build a tree without the right seed, without the right acorn. And if you think about it, there's proof of this. The top 10 people in the world make more money than the lowest 3.5 billion income earners. Think about that. 10 make more than 3.5 billion. Now, some of that's unfair. There's a lot of inequality, but that's for a different conversation. There's also something to learn from that it's not just hard work, just like it's not just sunlight that creates a tree or water. You got to have the seed first, and the seed in this case is the proper mindset. It does come down to mindset. There's some people that no matter what you give them, all the tools in the world, all the opportunities, they never have the right mindset. They never see it. They're negative. They're cynical. They don't grab opportunities when they're there. They don't work smart. They just work hard. You know, there's so many things about mindset.
To think the way you want to think is to think regardless of appearances. To think according to appearances is easy. To think truth regardless of appearances is labor. Sustained and consecutive thought is the hardest work known to man. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. So I'm just gonna give y'all a couple of little things in my notes for y'all to write down. I'm gonna say it slow so y'all can keep up with me. Without further ado, let's go. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. To look upon the forms of disease will eventually form in your mind and then in your body, unless you hold the thought that there is no disease, there is only health. To look upon the appearances of poverty will produce corresponding forms in your mind, unless you hold the thought and the truth that there is no poverty, there is only abundance. To think riches when in the midst of or appearances of poverty requires power. He who requires this power becomes a mastermind. Get hold of the basic fact which is behind all appearances, that there is one thinking substance, which all things are made. Grasp the truth that every thought held in this substance becomes a form. When we realize this, we lose all doubt and fear. We can create what we want to create, we can have what we want to have, and we can be what we want to be. Believe these three fundamental statements. Write them down. There is a thinking God from which all things are made. A thought in this substance produces the thing that is imagined by the thought. Man can form things in his thought, and by impressing his thought on formless substance can cause the things that he thinks about to be created. Lay aside all other concepts. Read these statements over again until you believe it and you firmly get in your head. If you get any doubts, cast it aside as a sin. Do not get into any arguments or listen to any arguments against this faith. If you get mixed up in your faith, all your efforts will be in vain. The science of getting rich begins with this acceptance of this faith.
Dapo asks, when you first started Bad Boys Records at the age of 24, did you imagine you would be so successful? A lot of the questions are along these lines, because you're talking about the techniques for business, but actually, where did you get that confidence as a young kid in New York?
One of the things that I say to young people that want to follow in my footsteps is I say you actually have to be crazy. You can't believe in the reality that's presented in front of you. You have to believe that you're going to be as great as you can be. And in our society, it's not, we're not inspired to do that. We're not inspired to dream big.
So what inspired you? What got you going?
I would say I was probably crazy, You're
still crazy?
Yeah, still crazy. But crazy in a positive way. You have to, you think about...
You're talking about risks. You're a risk taker.
No, I'm talking about crazy. A young kid from the inner city, just with a single mother, just saying that, one day he's going to be one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. That would be that's like a crazy concept. And you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in that. But most importantly, you have to do the work that it's going to take to get to that point.
But did you know you were going to be this successful when you were young? You did.
Yes, I did.
So you had that at the back of your mind all the time?
Yes, I did. I was crazy. And I still am.
That concludes my 4th episode. I want to give a 216 shout out to King Fletch. You can find him on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. He's doing this thing. He's rapping from the 216 area. I want to give a shout out. We got some great music. Y'all go get that mixtape. Support our 216 artists and our 216 entrepreneurs. Until our next episode, I'll be kicking more gems and more jewels to y'all, and we can continue the process of becoming rich and becoming wealthy. Till next time.